Hello people of the internet, it's Amanda and 4 days video. First off, I just want to start it by thanking every single person who's been watching my F4 Thailand reviews ever since I started doing them. It's been a fun couple of weeks just seeing your comments and your reactions to my reactions to the drama, as well as your own thoughts about each and every episode. Unfortunately, I have to announce that I'm officially dropping this drama and therefore I would stop making reviews for it. The reasons would be in today's video. Now before we start, I just want to say that coincidentally, I also made a video yesterday talking about Hana and why I feel like it's still the best reboot or the best answer to whatever happened in the Hana Yori Dango / F4 franchise, no matter what version you've seen. I pointed out certain things about how it sort of like corrected some of the problematic parts of its predecessor without it necessarily watering down the charm of the original storyline. And then F4 Thailand episode 7 happened and it was officially like my last straw in terms of what I've been feeling about this particular series. Now, I've shown frustration over many elements of this series, starting from episode 3 up to my last review. But I feel like after what I've seen, it's just not... It was something that I couldn't stand by with anymore, and I feel like I have to just at least make this video to create this closure since I started talking about the series anyway. I guess for me, I mentioned in yesterday's video as well that what they failed to do for Thyme in this particular adaptation is to push him to that particular edge before giving him that growth. And the reason for that is because if ever we see where he was coming from and then develop it from that, and maybe if they want to correct that particular arc of his character as compared to his previous iterations, they could have done it in a manner that makes sense for the story. So for everything that happened in episode 7 to happen in episode 7, after every single thing that we've been seeing from episodes 1 to 6, it just wasn't making sense for me anymore. And on like just the first sequence of the episode alone, so basically it revolved around Thyme's reaction when he saw Ren and Gorya hugging it out in the rooftop, and he started just retaliating towards everybody and almost beating someone to pulp. Now, it's interesting because throughout like the past episodes, Thyme kept on saying that Ren is a good person, that he knows that he is a good person, and he understands Gorya's feelings towards Ren, and that he kept on emphasizing that he was willing to wait for her to love him. And it's weird because every single thing that he was trying to show and prove in those past episodes, and what people seem to be really liking about him in the past episodes, for me just sort of like crumbled down, especially with what happened and his reaction in episode 7. That's why I feel like they should have done all this in the earlier parts of the series, especially playing off like from the tangent that was in episodes 1 and 2. For us to really show that this was what Thyme was capable of, this is him, and then deliver that kind of like growth. Because if he was a self-aware character as what he was being posed to be as in the earlier episodes, this wouldn't be his reaction. And I feel like them saying, I would go back to my old self, and then we see this. Again, it's really more of like, instead of telling us, you should have shown us in the earlier parts of who Thyme is and what was he actually capable of, instead of doing this, showing us this side of him that is very different from his previous iterations, and then going back to that particular trope again this late into the game. Again, for me, it just doesn't make sense storytelling wise, and again, there's a certain character disconnect. So for me, that was like a big no. Another thing was his confrontation with Gorya. So the entire dynamic of Hana Yori Dango has always been the fact that they are treating each other as equals, and that weirdly enough, in the other versions, I remember watching Meteor Garden in the scene where Dao Mingzi was chasing after Sanchai, and he almost punches her, and I remember he almost ripped out her shirt, and I remember watching that as a young kid because it was on TV, and it's still so vivid to me, like that particular scene, because how scary that was. And to see it again in this modern adaptation that's trying to be more woke, it was just kind of like messy. And people can say that, but he stopped himself because, when it comes to her, he could. That's not the point. Like, he was throwing things in the room and they were the only ones there. And the entire thing about this character, at least if we were to compare it to, say, the Japanese version, for example, that was his thing, his arc, is that he was this asshole towards everybody else. But when it came to the female lead, he couldn't lay a finger on her, and he was that strong in terms of his own self-control when it comes to her. And that's why the Meteor Garden one was really something else, because I feel like they followed the manga really closely. And again, even the manga, that was really some of the most problematic arcs of the manga. And then they do that in the Taiwanese version. I forgot how it was for like the Korean version, because that was kind of like blurry. I think for the Chinese version, that was also another problem, is because of this less gaslighty attitude that MG 2018's Dao Mingzi has. For Domyoji, it was never really like that. He wasn't physical with Chikushi at all, so that was definitely one of the highlights that I can contrast when it comes to this version. But again, this is the reason why this entire thing isn't fit for a modern setup anymore. Like, even during those times when the earlier versions aired, it was already brutal and it was wrong, and that was one of it is the biggest, saddest glorifications that happened in that particular drama arc at that time. And the reason why, to make it modern, you have to like really, I don't know, like, and for this to happen in this episode, you can see the fear in Gorya, and again, the juxtaposition of that scene and how scary that was. And then they kind of like played it off with some sort of romantic, sad ballad after. That was so wrong, because they're making it seem like Thyme was hurt because of what happened, and that's why he did that, and that's why he almost hit Gorya. I mean, even if there's that word almost, just the fact that he almost did it, it was really, really scary. And the way that he was just throwing things around when it was just the two of them in the room, that was a massive red flag. And obviously, again, with the Hana Yori Dango storyline, there's always been many red flags about this entire dynamic and everything. But for this to happen, and again, following this in terms of how they did that scene with Hana before, again, it just loses the entire essence of this character. And especially, again, what makes it worse is, again, how they tried to develop him in episodes 1 to 6 and then pay it off like this in episode 7. There's a massive disconnect in terms of the characterization and what they're trying to say about this character, and I feel like that was the last straw for me. As for the other things that happened in this episode, and again, I feel like I have nothing against Bright and his acting. I mean, I've been passing it off for like the past couple of episodes, praising him when his acting can, get a little merit. But for me personally, this episode was supposed to be an emotional episode for him as well. It's just that I didn't feel anything at all. I don't know what it is about his acting that in this episode that wasn't particularly, I mean, I felt the tension more from MJ and Kavan's character, which isn't saying something because, again, the acting is a little bit so-so, but it just felt very flat. Like, everything about it felt really flat. Even that fight that he had with Ren, it didn't have, and that's the thing, like they had that emotional moment in the previous episode, so it should have, I don't know, like there's something about it that was missing, that was emotional to the core, and I don't know, I just don't know what it is. But yeah, I felt like this episode, I feel like people who still like whatever it is that happened here might say that this is one of the best episodes yet or whatever. To me, it wasn't as emotionally charged as I would want it to be. The way that they played off Thyme's character, especially with everything that's been happening, where he's, again, I've been seeing it in the comment section, he's much more mature and self-aware as compared to the past iterations. They completely blew it off in this particular episode. And for something like that to be depicted on screen, especially at this day and age, and then they play it off as sort of like that kickstart for Thyme and Gorya's relationship, absolutely one of the last straws for me. Again, it just wasn't doing anything for me anymore, and I feel like it's just kind of like disappointing because I see that they're finally going to throw in, you know, the other episodes, like the other conflicts in the story. I was kind of pretty excited as to what they're gonna do when Thyme's mom gets into the scene, but I feel like this episode was just the last straw and I just couldn't anymore. And yeah, but I don't know, like tell me down in the comments below your thoughts. I'm so sorry again, but yeah, I'm officially dropping the series. I feel like maybe I would go back to it once the series is done just to create some sort of like a final recap thing, but I don't think it's something, I feel like it's something that I have to take a rest from after today's episode. And it was quite disappointing because, as I mentioned in my previous video yesterday, episode 7 for Hana no Chihare was that pivotal moment where it tried to like effectively correct the problematic things that was happening in the Hana Yori Dango storyline. And then episode 7 for F4 Thailand was such a huge letdown for me. And yeah, so, but again, thank you so much to everyone who's been watching my videos so far, and I know I'm just really happy that I got to like share this experience with you guys. It's just that for me personally, the series is just not doing it for me. I'm pretty disappointed because I actually liked the first couple of episodes of it, but it's because of everything that's happened in this particular episode and what I saw, it's just not something that I particularly enjoy anymore. And that's the thing, after that scene between Thyme and Gorya in the earlier sequence of the episode, I just didn't feel like finishing the episode at all. I just finished it for the sake of making this video and pointing out other things about this episode aside from that particular moment. So yeah, it was quite disappointing because I was also interested in seeing Ka-ning and Kevin's relationship starting to finally kickstart. But yeah, there are certain trade-offs and I just can't. So yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel and you would want to hear more from me, please hit subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll be seeing you again soon in a new one. Bye!